I was one of those people where I was like, a coach, like how much can a coach really help you? And I think a coach has a lot more of like a thought in posture towards your business and like understanding and wanting to push you and help you to grow and set goals. The flip side of that, I think, is like you don't realize how much you're trying to figure out on your own and how inefficient that is until you have someone say like, here's the exact way to do it. You don't have to try 10 ways to do it. You can try one way to do it, and it actually is going to save you time and make you money faster. That's the biggest pushback I see with people. They want the growth, but...
Welcome to Life Changing Money, a podcast all about one of the most taboo topics in the world, money. I'm your host, Barbara Schreihans, and we're going behind the scenes on business owners' journeys to money, success, and wealth. Let's get started. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Life Changing Money. I am so excited to have Kathryn McInturff on the podcast. Hello, and welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for flying in from Washington.
Yes, it's a lot sunnier and a lot warmer down here, so I'll take it.
It's probably, a lot hotter and drier.
Yes.
So like load up on the lotion whenever I'm like not here for a while. And as soon as I fly in, I'm like, my hands are so dry.
All the moisturizer, I have it packed. I'm like, I know what I was coming for. I knew.
Yeah. So how did you become a real estate agent?
Yeah, great question. So I did an MBA and I thought I was going to go the corporate route. Actually, I was interviewing for marketing jobs. I've always loved marketing, and I would get to the interview and I would literally be sitting across either table or over Zoom and be like, I would hate this job. This actually sounds awful. Like, I don't want to sit at a desk 9 to 5. I don't want to have like the corporate culture, really. It wasn't really something I was excited about. And I had a friend in real estate at the time who was like, hey, have you ever considered getting into real estate? And I'm like, yuck. Realtors are like schmoozy, salesy, not my vibe. And I ended up shadowing her for like a day. And she was like, no, I think you'd really like it. And at that point I was like, well, why not? Like, here we are. It was 2019. It was pre-COVID. And I was like, I have nothing else right now that's feeling exciting even. So I'm like, might as well give it a shot. And so I got my license in 2 weeks, and then I officially started, and it has been kind of full steam since. So
that's probably the most expensive way to start a real estate career.
It was definitely not predictable. I was like, so we are now doing student loans, all these things just for me to have done something I didn't even need a college degree for, period, much less like a master's degree. But I think that's been actually something, hindsight, that has really changed the way that I run our business, and always seeing it as a business, not just like a job, has been a really big, I think, factor in the growth that we've had.
As someone that sees everyone's tax returns and finances, I can say that, like, and I say this a lot, real estate agents are our messiest clients because, like you're saying, you kind of just like get into it. You have a friend or someone you know that is an agent, and you're like, yeah, I'll do it. And then a year goes by and they have to file a tax return, and they're like not set up right. They haven't kept receipts. They haven't run it like a business, like you're saying. And so, I mean, I love that you have your MBA before getting your license, and it's probably helped you a ton.
Oh, it's been amazing. I mean, it's definitely, it just gives a different outlook to look at it. And to your point, I think so many people, they like people, they're good at sales, they are good at marketing themselves, and so they get into real estate, but they don't actually get into it to run a business. And that's a whole other set of skills, you know? And so learning where you need to hire help if that's not your strength is something I think a lot of people do or don't do, and their business kind of follows trajectory according.
Starting in 2019, was it really hard during COVID, or was that 2020 was a good year for real estate, right?
It was a good year. It was I know a lot of agents that got started at that time. And I think it was a year that put you in a position to grow if you embraced it, where like, I mean, I would write 10 offers for one client before we got something accepted sometimes, because the market was so competitive. And so, you know, what would have normally maybe been like 20 or 30 offers in 1 year with those clients was like over 100, you know, because it was just like rep after rep after rep. And so I think it helped me to be more prepared for, you know, markets later on, but it was definitely like drinking from a fire hose from day one.
But probably built up your lead source really well too during COVID.
Totally. Yeah, no, I would say like the lead generation piece, which honestly at that time was so organic and was much more of just like building relationships, like working my sphere. It's only been really in the last 2 or 3 years that I've started using social media and Instagram to like really pour into that sales funnel and convert that. But at the time it was like, everyone, their mom, aunt, and cousin wanted to buy a house. So it wasn't like something that you needed to dig super deep for, but being able to like cultivate and then retain those clients is probably the biggest thing now going forward.
Especially with the rates the way that they are. Even though honestly, as a real estate investor, the rates are not that high. It's just not at 2% anymore.
Totally. No, I feel like it's all perspective, and so much of it's like the media and what we're like, kind of fed, I think, and that creates the way we feel about something. But there's great deals out there. We're under contract for another investment property right now. So, there's deals to be had for sure.
So now you're a real estate investor?
Mm-hmm. Yep. So my husband and I, we own an Airbnb, and then we're getting into single family and multifamily right now is kind of our goal for this year. So we're leveraging it to do some cost segregation is the reason why. So we're excited about that. But that's kind of the next journey for us as far as like diversifying income and creating more stability outside of just our real estate business.
And your husband works with you in your real estate business?
Yep. Yeah. So we work together. He used to do residential remodels. And so he was like in houses all the time, but having two businesses, you can imagine like one business, especially being real estate with taxes. I was like, wow, we cannot do this times two. Like this is in two industries too that are like notoriously difficult, I think. So we consolidated. He decided he wanted to do real estate instead of sticking with contracting. And then we've been working together for like 3 years now. So
what would be your number one advice for spouses working together?
Oh my gosh, that is such a good question. Two things. One, like you have to be, I think like a lot of it just depends on your relationship. Like I have friends who are like, oh my gosh, that sounds so fun. I would love to work with my spouse. And I have friends who are like, I wouldn't be married if I worked with my spouse.
Yeah.
It's so dependent on the person. But I think having like that foundation where you can like give and receive criticism, being able to like have a partnership type relationship, maybe more than what you would typically need just being married. I don't know. I feel like that my husband and I have always kind of operated that way. We were friends for years before we got married. And so that felt pretty natural. The other thing I always tell people is like, it's different than it would be if you were like hiring someone in your business. Like having you share the load as a married couple is so different than like, you have someone who can work for you when you want to go on vacation. That doesn't happen when you're married. You want to go probably together with your family. And so like, there's just things where it doesn't necessarily really give you reprieve the way that it would if you hired someone who is outside of your family. But on the flip side, you're also keeping income in your family. So there's kind of a tug and pull, I think, in both directions.
What's been like the number one financial mistake you guys made as being a business owner?
So this is like immediate. I know the exact answer because we grew really quickly. So after 2020, 2021, the market was really strong. Our business kept growing. We really quickly realized we needed help. And so we knew we needed to hire. Hiring was not the wrong decision, but how we hired was the wrong decision. So we hired our first employee as a true W-2 employee, which had some benefits to it, but was like way overly complex for where our business was at that point. And so we ended up like the person was great. The help was great. The structure was not great from a tax standpoint, from a financing back end standpoint. It just was not penciling at all for us. And so we pivoted. And then of course, like whenever you have a failure in your business, it's really hard mentally, I think, to commit to trying it again.
Yeah.
And so when we transitioned that person, then we kind of took a break of hiring someone. And that was the year that it was like crazy busy. We were trying to get pregnant. It was insane, like crazy hours, like not the kind of business that we really wanted to have. And so just in the last year, we've re-entered hiring and we have an amazing independent contractor who is terrific and so good at what she does. And it's been the right fit, like by a long shot, but that was a really hard mistake to learn. And just being able to like navigate now bringing in another person into the team, but doing it differently.
Yeah.
Making tough judgment calls is really hard.
And then when you're like losing money because of it too, it just is like another added layer.
Yeah.
So you mentioned investing in real estate, which is great because it will help you save money in taxes with the cost seg study. How do you analyze deals?
It's a good question. My husband and I, we're fairly new. So we're kind of in the process of figuring this out. And as you know, right now with rates, it's really hard. It's not impossible, but it's hard for some things to pencil because you're like, okay, well, what's really the end goal? And so like for us right now, like when we're looking at properties, we're looking at things that we can maybe get a higher percentage for a cost seg study. So like There's storage unit facilities in our area. There's office buildings. There's like other diverse asset classes that give us a little bit more leverage, because right now our biggest thing is what's the end goal, right? Like we're not cash flowing.
Yeah.
Really. Like the goal is not to cash flow. And I think a lot of people get hung up on real estate investment because they get hung up on that.
Yeah.
And instead of looking at the big picture, like for us, we're trying to save on taxes. We're trying to have long-term investments that will grow value over time. We're not really as concerned about the cash flow. And so it's just a different way to look at it, I think, than a lot of people do, of like the numbers don't work from a monthly cash flow standpoint. It's just not as much of the goal of what we're really trying to do. So that world really well, I'm sure.
Well, I love that you mentioned that, because most people I ask that question to, they say cash flow and that they only want to invest for cash flow. But that's not the only calculation when you're calculating return on investment. So
Totally.
You're talking about so many of the other things that I try to teach people. Is like, yes, the goal is always to cash flow. But in this market, it's really hard, like really, really hard. I maybe see 1 in 50 deals that could cash flow. But if that happens, the flip side, if a property is cash flowing, it probably is not in a market that would appreciate a lot. And so that's when you have to ask yourself as the investor, what do you want more of? Do you want long-term growth more, or do you want $200 a month in cash flow? And so that's like decision number 1. But I think when calculating like overall return on investment, I think it's that you take cash flow plus appreciation over time, plus your tax savings. So finding, like you're saying, places that have a better cost seg study, and equity pay down if it's something that you're going to have a renter in and pay for. And so you have to calculate all cash on cash return. If you are using your own cash, how are you leveraging it? So there's like so many ways to calculate it. And I love hearing when there's not just the cash flow investor. So good job, because you'll like come out on top over time.
Well, it is like, I feel like we're literally just this deep. But when you really think about it, and this is like what our conversations are, like, okay, if we're going to put $100,000 down to make $200 a month, like it can't be about the cash flow. It's insane.
Yeah.
And then you have the risk associated with owning real estate, which, has its benefits as well, but it has to be about the whole picture. And I agree with you. I think even clients I work with on the investment standpoint get really hung up on the cash flow. And it's like, you're not retiring yourself on cash flow from real estate deals. You're retiring yourself on all the other things, and building this like wealth portfolio over time. So it's a lot more complex than I think a lot of people realize.
Are you and your husband different with money?
Like our tendencies on money? It's really interesting. So yes, and we've grown more similar over time. So background, I grew up in a more like affluent community. So I grew up in like Mercer Island, Washington. It's like one of the suburbs of Seattle. And like my graduating class was like kids going to Harvard and Yale and Stanford. It was just like kind of where are you going to go? Which Ivy League school are you going to go to? And so I grew up around that environment, like really high achieving parents of my friends, like very, my graduating class had like parents who helped found Microsoft, or like the original people, so like very much immersed in that world. My husband grew up in Portland and grew up like very different as far as just like his socioeconomic background. And so like that's been something we've worked really together in. But the funny thing is like what that produced was very opposite. So for me, I've always been like very frugal. Like I've just always felt like, oh, I just want to be really cautious with money. Versus for him, like when we started making larger amounts of money, it was like, oh my gosh, like the things that I want to buy that maybe I didn't have the ability to buy in my childhood, And so now we've kind of married it together, but it was a really big, probably like just conversation point, between us for a long time. And especially in real estate where you can go from like, I'm getting started, I'm not making any money, to like, whoa, I'm making like a pretty significant amount of money that I never thought I'd make ever. And I made it in like 36 months. It's just that on-ramp can happen really quickly, a lot quicker than like mentally and emotionally maybe you're ready for. Like it just all of a sudden you're looking at a bank account and you're like, oh my gosh, what do I do with this? No one taught me how to, take this and do something with it that's going to invest in my future. So that's been a learning curve for us for sure.
So besides real estate investing, what else are some of your goals for money as a family?
I feel like every entrepreneur feels this, and I'm in it like a lot right now because our business is growing really significantly as far as like real estate goes. We're right now tracking like 30% growth just from last year,
Amazing.
which is amazing. And it is happening organically. It's happening with our dream client. It's not feeling like it's being forced at all. It's like very organic, which is really cool. The flip side of it though, and the part we're navigating is like, when is enough enough? And I think it's the question that like a lot of people ask, and you know, I don't know if people have an answer to it. I'm still working through it myself, but it's like, when is enough enough? Where like, there's always room to scale. There's always room to grow. Like I know in my head, like if we wanted to take this to like 7, 8 figure business, like I know what it would take to do that to some degree. Like obviously I'm not doing it, but I'm like, okay, I can see how that leverage would look, but like at what cost? You know, we have a 16-month-old at home and we want to like continue growing our family. And so it's this tug of like, okay, when do you say like, okay, the business is in a place I'm really proud of and like I can grow it in other ways, not necessarily like more. And so that's kind of where we're at now of just really, asking that question of like, okay, where do we feel like is that threshold of like, it's now our business isn't giving us the life we want. Our business is actually taking life from us. And that's like a really pivotal point for most entrepreneurs to figure out like when they hit that edge where they're like, this is where I want to stay.
And I think for most people, they'll either stay where they are so that your time isn't taken, or you'll have to figure out a way to delegate more, which in the short term, that's when you lose money because you're having to pay someone for your time back. But hopefully in the long run, it can buy your time back and money back as well. So I'm glad you guys are like realizing that, because I think a lot of business owners will just keep going until they're like completely burnt out and they're like, what did I even do to myself and my family?
Totally. Oh yeah. And then you're like, okay, now I just want to burn down the thing I just burned down my whole family to build. And now I don't even want this thing anymore, you know, because it's just a reminder of all the things I lost to get here, you know? So yeah, it's funny. I feel like entrepreneurship is such a like intimate journey as well as like, it's very outward. It's very like pen and paper, black and white, but there's so many inner workings of like how it actually is you're experiencing that. And I don't think that's something that people just talk about a lot. So it's like the psychology of money even. It's like, again, it's one of those things where like we all are out there trying to make it, but like, what do we actually, like, what's our relationship with it? You know, and that's like a totally different thing.
I love that. How did you become a speaker on a very big stage? We're sharing the stage over the next couple of days at Rise Retreat. So what's been your journey like as a speaker?
Yeah. So I have gotten into coaching, which is really the like kind of avenue of speaking now, especially with other brokers. So with other real estate agents. So that's really been kind of where our business has naturally gravitated towards, especially with the growth of our like actual transaction business in real estate. And so now that it's grown and that's become, you know, what it is, that's created kind of a leverage to be able to teach that to other people. So that's really the avenue that I've done. I've hosted a course for the last year and have had now like 60 agents go through that course, which has been really fun. And then I have a more intimate, like high level coaching group that I do as well for agents who want to just like continue with the accountability and the coaching and the support. And that's really where I feel like the heart of our business is going, just with it being something where like it's taking the gifts that I think I have beyond just selling houses and using it to something that like actually aligns with like who I am and what I'm passionate about, which is really cool and uses a different muscle than I use when I'm, you know, out with clients and negotiating and doing contracts and all the other things. So that has been really cool. And that's really what's like led me into this now new journey of speaking and being able to do, just more of my coaching business, which has been really fun.
What are you speaking on?
Talking about the evolution of how to leverage in your business. And so I'm talking about how that's looked for us, but the systems we've used to leverage in each season of our business. And so there's really 4 distinct seasons that I've seen evolve to where we are now. And it's the like entry, you're first getting started. You don't know up from down, left from right. You're just kind of not floundering, but you're just figuring out a lot, to like, okay, I'm doing this business now and I'm realizing there's a lot of gaps that I can't fill. And I'm also finding a lot of success and I'm starting to get that momentum, but like, holy cow, what am I going to do with it? And then like this kind of next phase of like what I call like the burnout phase of like, okay, now I'm like hitting critical momentum. My business is growing. I'm excited. The energy is there, but like, it's not sustainable. Like what it took for you to start this thing is not what it's going to take for you to sustain it. And then creating this like legacy business of like, how do you do something then that like creates legacy for you, financial legacy for your family, and really like that longevity pivot to like your exit strategy, other revenue streams, things that are going to allow you to actually be sustainable in the industry.
What would you say to someone that has been thinking about hiring a coach or joining a mastermind, but they haven't pulled the trigger?
I will just say, like, I was one of those people where I was like, a coach, like, how much can a coach really help you? And I think a lot of people think that. And I think too, to be honest, like in our day and age, coach gets thrown around a lot. And I feel like it's a very saturated industry where like there's a difference between someone who's coaching you and someone who's like teaching you something. And I think a coach has a lot more of like a like bought in posture towards your business and like understanding and wanting to push you and help you to grow and set goals. And so for me, I hired our first coach, and I mean, we've paid multi 5 figures, if not 6 figures in coaching since we've been in this business. And that was a huge investment for us. But the flip side of that, I think, is like you don't realize how much you're trying to figure out on your own and how inefficient that is until you have someone say like, here's the exact way to do it. You don't have to try 10 ways to do it. You can try one way to do it, and it actually is going to save you time and make you money faster. And so I think for a lot of people, it's like that initial sticker shock of like, I'm going to invest in a good coach that's strategic, that's going to be the person to help bridge in this next season of my business, but it's not inexpensive, you know? And that's the biggest pushback I see with people who they want the growth, but they don't quite see the big picture of it. Like, it's not just about like, you closing more deals now. It's about like, is this a business that's going to actually scale with you, that's going to give you leverage back and all the things that are going to let you get that legacy business. Yeah, that's the biggest thing for us is just like making that initial investment and that initial plunge. And I mean, I cannot imagine where our business would be, honestly, if I hadn't done that.
Same. Like, it's always the question of like, well, how much would you pay to get your time back? Like you said, you can try something 10 ways. And like, how long would that take you? I mean,
a long time.
One way, you're probably taking 3 months to figure out at least if something's working, and then 10 different times, 30 months. So like, how much is 30 months of your time worth?
100%. Oh, absolutely. And people don't think about it that way. You know, I think, it's always very one-dimensional, and it's not like, well, what's the like magnitude effect of what this could be in my business, or the mistakes you're going to avoid that are really, really hard to come back from. You know, like there's mistakes that we've avoided as we've been scaling that I'm like, my gosh, like if someone hadn't told me like, hey, you need to make sure like when you first come into coaching, you know, this is what you need to do as far as your offer suite, or this is how you aren't going to like cannibalize your business. Like there's things that you would do that would be really hard to come back from. I mean, for me, like I didn't know until I had someone telling me that. So
yeah, I love that. What do you want your kiddo to know about money and business?
Relationship with money is so complex. And the best thing I've heard personally that has really resonated with me that I would hope to teach to him is to look at money more as like energy currency than as like dollar bills. I think sometimes when we get so like familiar with something, it almost like makes it feel so ordinary that you start associating all of the like stereotypes with it. And obviously money is a very sensitive topic for a lot of people. And I think like to desensitize it can give you the ability to make better decisions about it. And so one of our coaches has challenged us to look at it as like it's energy. So like what energy are you receiving for the effort you're putting out? And when are you willing to exchange energy to get reprieve or rest or time back or whatever that is? And I think when you take away this like conception of money, all of a sudden it's like there's just this bigger mindset of like, oh yeah, of course I would give up energy if it means like I can go on a trip with my family. Like that's so worth it. Like I've created all of this like pool of energy by building my business the way I have. Like why wouldn't I want to like invest it in some of these other areas? But I think thinking about it differently than what we've all been raised, whatever our backgrounds are, just gives you a little bit better, like unbiased look at how you can spend it. And so that would be my hope for him is like, you know, especially in that like time, money world of like, you know, it's just this like, okay, when are you trading time for money? When are you trading money for time? And I think when you can equalize it with your energy, it all of a sudden becomes a lot easier to make those decisions.
Such a good answer. Where can everyone find you?
So Instagram is the best. I'm on Instagram. My handle is at McInturff and Co. I'll share it with you so you don't have to spell it. Yeah, Instagram is the best. My website is McInturffandco.com, and all of my coaching resources for agents are on Instagram too. So that's really the catch-all where you'll find me hanging out most.
Well, I'm excited to hear you speak.
I can't wait to hear you speak.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Life Changing Money. Don't forget to subscribe, and I would love if you left a review and shared it with your friends. See you next time.